and kind of speak to some of the questions that we've heard from you guys in the past. And then what we'll do is I'll dive right in. Michelle, I've got a list of questions that I think you sent over to Amy, and she was kind enough to share those with me. So, hopefully, and of course, if you have any more questions as we go through, keep this interactive, guys. This is your time, and I'm here to serve you. So I will grade you at the end on interactivity.
Sounds good. Thank you.
So real quickly, one of the things I like to point out way up front and very early in this process, when we talk about project flow, and Amy is spot on, it's new. We do have some customers using it, but they're net new customers. We don't yet have any existing customers that have actually migrated over that I know of. There may be some on the West Coast that I'm unaware of, but that I know of. I don't know of any that have migrated. The beautiful thing, sorry, go ahead.
Chris, this is Gail. I just want to make sure we're on the same page. So Gainesville is currently in production with 8.5, so they are on Project Flow.
Okay, all right, okay. All right. I thought they were on 3. Mistake. No, thank you, Gail.
They're on 8.5, the latest version of 8.5 right now.
Perfect, thank you. That is awesome. I thought they were on 8.3. Excellent. So disregard where I was going with this conversation. It doesn't apply to you guys. So that is actually very good news. So let's talk a little bit about Project Flow specifically then. I'm going to dive right into an existing project I have in here and talk about kind of Project Flow. I know, Michelle, one of your questions you had revolved around restarting workflow, right? It seems that is a concern with you. With Project Flow, it has gotten easier. The ability to actually move from one step of the workflow to another. Of course, you have to have appropriate privileges to do so, but the ability to move within the workflow. So I've gone to my workflow portal in a particular project. I have appropriate credentials. And by the way, this is my machine that shows this kind of checkerboard or, pattern in the background. We haven't yet determined what's wrong with my machine or its graphics card. You guys will see an all-white background. You won't see that checkerboard gray and white background. But we can see we're at an applicant resubmit step in this particular workflow. Maybe I need to go to, I need to back that up to a department review. Notice this little button here that says jump to activity. When I click on that, I'm given a warning that kind of explains some very important information about what it means to go backwards in the workflow. You will close some open tasks and so forth. So that's a very important piece. But this makes it much easier than folks have had in the past when they needed to restart workflow. Is that kind of meeting exactly what you were after there, Michelle?
I think I'm okay as far as moving through the workflow. I thought that there might have been some new features as far as restarting workflows. So I would just say, just right now we understand how to, unless Leela, if you would like to see how to restart, we're thinking about like for revised plans. So you've gone through and you've approved, you've batch stamped, everything's good to go, and there's a revision out in the field. So we want them to resubmit those revisions to the same exact sheet so that we keep the project together and it just creates a new version. And so we would obviously have to restart the workflow. And we know how, Gail has showed us how to do that already. So I guess maybe there might have been some confusion on your end about not knowing that we were already on the latest version. So I just thought with the new upgrade, with the Bluebeam integration, if anything had changed, we would like to see that.
So there is one major change that may apply. I don't know about restarting your workflow really isn't going to change that much, but we do have what we call ad hoc or quick review workflow, which is new in 8.6, and it is pretty powerful. And it may apply to some of those scenarios. I'm not quite sure. I don't know your environment as well as I should, obviously. But with the appropriate credentials, I can come into a project, I can click on Start Workflow, and I can select this Quick Review Workflow, and then I can select a type. And I like this type area here because it actually kind of gives us some dialogue to talk about what this ad hoc or quick review could be useful for. I like to say when I'm presenting to net new customers, I talk about the fact that this may be a tool that's used for something out of the ordinary. For example, a historical society approval. Maybe that's not in our standard workflow, so I might want to click on approval request and then and then send it over to someone else. So an exception, more or less, right? This could also be informational. This could be it could be changes, right? So when you get out in the field, changes are made, and we need to document those or review those. Same concept holds true here, where maybe we want to do a design review. And once we click on Start, we're going to be presented with an e-form that allows us to put some clarity around that and also tie it to a specific drawing, which is, I think, where you were going a little bit. So here I can be a little more specific about my expectations. And then you'll notice this check in the box approach for response required, because this may be informational, right? I may be just sharing some information, and there's my notification coming in. I may just be sharing some information with other folks, or I may be demanding that a response come back to me. And of course, I have the ability to establish a due date. And as I scroll down here, I can select groups or individuals associated with that response, right? So I can select the appropriate individual or group. And then I have the ability to specify which file I'm addressing, and then I can give a little more detail about what I want done with that particular file. I'm going to pause for any questions or comments, Michelle and Leila.
I do have one quick question. So this is associated, is this on a project level or a system level? So in other words, would we be able to do this from a project?
This, in fact, what I just showed you was directly from a project. Okay. Absolutely.
Okay. Thank you.
So there may be any number of reasons we may want to use quick review or ad hoc review. I like the term ad hoc or, exception. But it is.
A quick question.
Sorry, go ahead.
We had an example pop up this week with one of our active projects, and I thought this could be the perfect solution for it. And I just want to explain the problem to you, and if you could just show us how you would use this tool to fix it. So
sure thing.
We received updated plans from an applicant for their round 2 of review. And immediately one of our reviewers saw something that they had missed in the previous review. It was super minor. They just want a couple of infrastructure features added along a roadway, right? Super simple. But we have a 13-day review cycle until we push all of the comments back to the applicant. So something that probably could have been resolved in 45 minutes between this reviewer and the applicant going to be delayed until we return those comments. How would you handle a situation like that using this enhancement?
Yep, absolutely. And this is almost spot on for what this was built for. So I'm going to go in, I'm going to say quick review, and it sounded like change request might be appropriate, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Change request, and we'll say roadway change.
And just so that, I don't know if anyone else on this call has an opinion, but the word instant isn't plain speaking in my world. Like when I saw the instant name, I didn't know what you were looking for. I'm just putting that out there. Like subject maybe would be more intuitive, but.
Wait, didn't quite follow that.
I was just providing a little feedback on the form there. Instant doesn't really mean anything. Subject would mean something to me, but I didn't have a looking for there when I first.
Yeah, that's essentially the title of your request, and I think that would be more appropriate. You're right. So we called it roadway change, and they would put their specifics. here. We need a response from that customer, and we need it by, I don't know, you said you have a 13-day review cycle, so you'd probably want, you'd probably want it somewhere around here, right? So, and then we'd say, go to the applicant, and we would reference the particular drawing that we're talking about. We would assign it, whoops, cancel, wait. We would add the file and then be specific if we need to. And then we would say assign responders. And that's going to actually create the task, just like the applicant would have gotten when the project started, right? They're going to get an email notification with a task. They would come in to Project Docs, of course, and they would see that task down below. And let's see. Responders. You know what? Let's just do it the easy way. There we go. Sorry, I was using two screens here. Okay. So there's the notification. It's no different than our previous notifications. They're pretty simplistic. And let's go 3. Oh, I'm in 2015. Look at that. Sorry, guys. There we go. Quick review response. Yes, I want to accept the task as the applicant. Come in and there we go. Of course, there were 2 applicants associated with that group because I selected the group. There's our cycle. I can make my comments here, but one of the things that happens when we do this is at this point in the process, in all likelihood, your applicants have been put into a read-only mode for the different folder structures in the project. So if they did make a change to a drawing, how would they go about uploading it? Wrong project. I don't have it in that one. One of the things that we do is we turn on a new folder called Quick Review, and we give them upload capability to that for any new changes mid-cycle, like you were discussing in that scenario. So they wouldn't be able to upload to the drawings folder. It would go into the Quick Review, and then internally you would handle that file. Make sense?
Yes, I have a question on that, Chris. So the Quick Review folder would have any changes, but then at some point a plan set stays together. They're not really separate. So we would need, since this is an electronic, system, and we're storing projects electronically, at some point the complete plan set needs to be correct with all the correct versions.
Yep. So internally, what you would do is you would take the file from the Quick Review folder and move it into your drawings folder, which would rev that file. It would be a new version of the same file. We don't want the applicants having any edit capabilities in that drawings folder once they've completed their upload, until it's time for a cycle, right? And what we're doing here is something mid-cycle.
Gotcha. Yeah, I had an applicant actually ask me yesterday, can you ask them if we can have permission after resubmittal? Like, no.
No, not going to happen. Right. So, yeah, there's that. I mean, so does this kind of meet that need?
Well, I think we've got one more question over here.
I want to know, in the Quick Review, is there a batch stamp? Because we would want to be able to stamp that Quick Review change as approved.
No. I mean, you certainly can stamp any file you want, but that's not. So this is an exception. We're mid-cycle. We're not even ready for an approval yet. This was just that the plans examiner said, hey, I need to make this one. I need you to make this one adjustment for me in the drawing. They make that adjustment, send it to the quick review folder because that's the only folder they have access to. And now I, as that plans examiner, can open it and then move it to the drawings folder, and nothing else changes, right? So I can the same process continues along the way. Does that make sense?
It's a little bit different. We have things that have been approved, and they're already out there that they're coming back for a change to. That's the change request is after the plan has been approved. So it could be as simple as, I don't know, shifting, the building had to shift 5 feet, or they had to move a tree, and we wanted to show that we approved that.
Mm-hmm. Sure.
Chris, that happens frequently. We have revised files after plans have been approved, and still it happens frequently, not just once in a while.
Sure. Now there's a couple of. Go ahead.
I was going to just say, Chris. So Michelle and Ralph, I think what you're talking about is kind of the revision process after things have been approved, and Chris is kind of showing you before anything's been approved. You might have, Ralph, you might need to go back to the applicant. They forgot to upload a reference sheet from, the site plan. So you just want them to upload this reference sheet from the site plan, and it would go into a quick review.
It looks to me that it could be used for both. So if they do a quick review after the plans have been approved, for example, Chris just said that sheet can be moved from quick review into the drawings folder and then re-batch stamped, right?
That is an accurate statement.
Yeah, I don't think it's exclusively meant to say an ad hoc review. The quick review couldn't be used for your revision process, right, Chris?
Correct.
It was just I think the focus when it was built and developed was for these one-offs. I need to talk to the applicant, or maybe I need, Ralph needs Andrew to look at something in a slightly smaller little silo on its own, and a quick review between Ralph and Andrew. So that's what it was built for, but it doesn't mean it has to only be within a project. It could be its own mini little project after everything's been approved.
An excellent point, and thanks for the clarity. The design, the thought process behind developing this ad hoc or quick review was for exceptions. If that is about as clear as I can make it. It was designed for out of the norm, right? That's why I like the term ad hoc over quick review, to be honest with you.
Yes, quick question. If you're on your second review cycle and all of the updated drawings in your drawings folder have a V2, and that plans examiner who just did the quick review moves over that sheet into the drawings folder, does that sheet now say V3?
Yes, it does.
Well, you can't copy from the quick review folder into the drawings folder. If the file name is exactly the same, you can't copy it over. That is a limitation, Chris.
Oh, then it would be a download and a re-upload?
It would have to be if the file name's the same and you want to version it as a V3.
Yeah. Okay. I'm going to make note of that because that's okay.
So what you're saying, Gail, just for clarification, what you're saying is that if they uploaded that quick review and we decided we needed it to be part of the regular review, then the applicant would grab it out of the quick review folder and re-upload it into drawings to create the V3?
No, they wouldn't have that access.
Yeah, they wouldn't have the permissions at that point because the drawings folder would still be
like at resubmittal, I guess.
Right. Or you could have your reviewer download it and upload it as if they were the applicant and let it get versioned that way.
So for us, okay, we understand that. It's a little awkward.
I guess my only question is not so much about the mechanics in the software but just about if we're making, potential changes kind of midstream, is that gonna, are we gonna get reviewers kicking and screaming?
I'm sorry, can you repeat the question?
Yeah. Never mind. It's not a question for you guys.
Oh, okay. Are we good?
Yeah, Andrew, to answer, I think I know where you were going with that. I kind of agree with you. I don't see where we would use this as a tool for bid review, because that could create a lot of interruptions to the actual plan review. But I could definitely see this as a tool for revisions after approval.
I guess we can move on, and we're going to spend our whole time on this one.
Okay. Michelle, a lot of your questions revolved around Bluebeam. And so can you tell me a little bit about the source of that? I'm assuming you have several, or at least a few folks internally using Bluebeam?
We have probably 70%, I would say, of our reviewers using Bluebeam, if not more. And so they really like it a lot. And a lot of our engineering community, our applicants, they are also using Bluebeam on their side. So they like it a lot.
Okay.
Now, my biggest concern is more the reporting tool. Well, the change mark and reporting. I mean, and the ease in which that can be done on both sides. So right now it's a little bit cumbersome with the Brava tool and the forms. It's slightly cumbersome in the sense of, applicants have to go to 3 different places to look at markups and the way they, put the markups in. So I was just kind of curious to see, how using Bluebeam can affect, because we might not have, everybody might not want to use Bluebeam. We definitely have some people that like the Brava tool. So my biggest concern is what happens if we use Bluebeam and Brava? How does that look to the applicant? Is there a report that shows both change marks? And what about markups? Right now we don't have a markup report really at all.
Sure. Okay, so let's dive in. So while you were talking, I went ahead and I opened a file that was in Project Docs using Bluebeam. So this is Bluebeam. I made a scribble scrabble on it and I saved it. Okay, so I'm done. Notice that was this top file right here, and it's got a red up arrow on the Bluebeam icon. So those that are available to be opened by Bluebeam have the Bluebeam icon underneath of the file. So I opened it, I made some marks, and now I need to put it back. I'm going to go ahead and say OK. Once I click on the Bluebeam icon, it's asking if I want to upload the new version. I'm going to say yes. It's going to take a minute or so. And there we go. It tells me that it was done. So if I come over here and I do a quick refresh on my list here, you'll notice that it versioned the file from.
You're acting as the reviewer?
I am, yes.
Okay, so as the reviewer, when you make markups or plan review marks, change marks, that's going to create a new version?
That's correct. That's how we can track what's going on within Bluebeam.
And hey, Chris, to follow up on Michelle's question, I noticed that the file was checked out when you opened it. Can only one person open it in Bluebeam at a time?
That is correct. That is a limitation of using Bluebeam versus the Brava viewer. Other questions?
Well, that could pose a problem. Only one person could be working in Bluebeam at a time. Don't you think, Michelle?
That could cause a very big problem. But Bluebeam has, I think, doesn't it matter what version you use, because they do have a collaboration tool that allows multiple people to view the same file at the same time? And I know some of our users have that version. Or does it not matter in Project Docs?
Again, that is a function of Bluebeam Review, not of Project Docs. What you do outside of Project Docs really doesn't matter. This is a check-in, check-out functionality when we use Bluebeam, right? So once I've checked it out, nobody else can check it out. But I may be able to collaborate with those folks in Bluebeam Review.
I see. Yeah, that's definitely a big problem for us. We can't have just one person working on a file at a time. That won't work. We have too many hands that are doing the review at the same time.
Can we see what what it looks like when you go under the change mark icon? What the markup looks like?
Yep. And there's that change mark.
Can you edit that in Bluebeam, the name of the markup?
Again, once I've checked it out, what I do with it in Bluebeam has nothing to do, right? It doesn't matter. Here is another function is one of the questions revolved around if you had users of two different, one using Brava, one using Bluebeam. This is an example of that where I'm opening up in Brava a Bluebeam edit, right? Or change mark. And of course, this is Brava, but I can also open up, well, if there were other reviews, I could open those up regardless of whether they were from Bluebeam or Brava.
So if you have, like, say 3 people are using Bluebeam and marking up one file, would that end up versioning the file potentially 3 times?
Yes, it would.
It would.
So if we have, for example, the utility side has 5 different departments reviewing. So if you have that one sheet that the applicant uploaded and 5 people made markups on that sheet, you would have a V5 there?
That is correct.
Oh, that's bad.
And that's a function of Bluebeam. When we make markups in Bluebeam, we're actually editing the original file, right? It's just the way it is. That is Bluebeam.
Yeah, I've seen that before where you can pull a report where it creates several layers.
Mm-hmm. Several versions of the file, right.
So what does that look like when you have, so say you have a couple of change marks in Bluebeam and a couple of change marks in Brava, what does that look like as far as reporting goes?
Gail, what reporting are they using? I mean, are we talking just e-forms, change mark report? What are they referencing?
The SSRS reports that we have in, those.
Okay. So I don't have that in my demo system, and what it would ultimately look like is Bluebeam being another markup, right? It's another, just like we've got here where I just had this file open in Brava, and let me go ahead and make a change mark really quick, and then we can see that the information that's pulled really is going to look very similar with slight naming variations. Let me just do something really quick. What a hideous color, yellow.
While you're doing that, if someone's working and checked out a file in Bluebeam, can other people still be working in Brava on that same file?
That's an excellent question. I'm going to have to test that. I do not know the answer.
In my experience is if that lock, that green keypad, or what is it, padlock is red, no one can edit in the version that we're using today. So when I see that little padlock go red, my guess is no one can edit.
You guys are using checkout functionality then, is that right?
No, we have. Well, that's a great question. We have that feature, and we would like for that icon to go away completely. There's no reason for any of our plan reviewers to ever check out a file, and Michelle and I are having to go in as sysadmins and unlock files because people are accidentally doing it, but we don't have a need for it.
Yeah, Chris, that functionality to check in, check out files is inherent to the ability to create change marks, so we can't turn it off. We'd have to ask Dwayne how to turn that off or ask for an enhancement.
Okay. So I am in Brava, and I'm actually looking at both change marks. I'm looking at Brava change marks and Bluebeam change marks. And so the moral of that story is that the reporting is going to pull the same information. Again, the variation would be these naming conventions around the change marks, right? Everything that's done in Bluebeam is going to begin with Bluebeam edit.
So what about could somebody say download the file out of the drawings folder, and for those users who are using Bluebeam, use that downloaded file for whatever collaboration solution there is in Bluebeam, and then upload that marked up file back into the drawings folder, and then it would only have one version?
I see where you're going with that, but I think what you're going to ultimately end up doing by going that route is circumventing the reports that you are actually asking about. You're going to circumvent the ability to see all of those change marks, right? That Bluebeam those Bluebeam change marks won't be captured. You'll be able to see them on the drawing, but they won't be in your reporting.
Right.
So technically, yeah, there's no reason that wouldn't work. From a process standpoint, I don't think I would advise it.
Chris, will the change marks show on the e-form? So when the reviewer or the applicant has their task and they open it up, will the Bluebeam? Yeah,
the Bluebeam change marks do show up on the e-form.
Okay.
Just do, and when I open up the Brava viewer, let me go see if I've got a task on this Santa Clara project. But the change marks will show up on the e-forms, but not if we go that download and then re-upload route, right? There we go.
I don't know if anybody else has any other Bluebeam questions, but I certainly have some questions regarding this version of Brava. Are there any improvements or any changes that you're aware of?
Not in the Brava viewer, but I can tell you that is coming in 2017. There are some big changes coming in Brava that I can't disclose at this point because they're not written in concrete. But there are some big Brava changes coming this coming year. And I'm guessing, and again, educated guess, mid to late summer. And the current thinking is that will be version 9. Project Docs version 9, by the way.
In this version, sorry, go ahead, Rob.
Going back to the earlier question about the Bluebeam edit, I noticed when your thing came up, it shows Bluebeam edit. So every time there's a Bluebeam edit, it's going to come up as a Bluebeam edit. So we got 5 or 6 people doing Bluebeam edit. It's just going to say Bluebeam edit for all of those 5 different reviewers. For each of their change marks.
It also comes with some metadata. Let me go back into that file that we were in with those change marks. It does have some metadata associated with it, such as who did it. And again, that's assuming you're not going to do that download, upload stuff.
Right.
But let me highlight that real quick. Oh. So if I go to the Bluebeam edit, so there we are capturing who did it and when they did it. So we do have some metadata associated with them.
But the applicant, it's not going to be easy for the applicant to find out that information.
I'm sorry?
I'm wondering about the applicant, because when the applicant goes in to look at this, I mean, is it going to be easy for them to find out that metadata information? They're going to have to Bluebeam edit to figure out who made that edit. Because right now, we've been talking about, showing them how to sort of sort those different change marks so they can have all of the review stuff together, all the planning, all the public works together. But with the Bluebeam thing, it's going to make that real difficult, I think. Because all of them are going to show up as Bluebeam edit, and the only way you can find out who made it, you're going to have to go click it.
The only way, so you're saying the only way to find out who made it is what?
You're going to have to highlight whatever that edit is, right?
Yes.
How did you get to this metadata?
I clicked on the change mark.
Right. So they're going to have to go and click on every Bluebeam edit change mark to find out who made that file.
No, not necessarily. It'll also be in the e-form. With the listing of change marks that they have today, Bluebeam's change marks will be there as well, and that metadata does come through.
Okay.
And could you show us what the change mark report looks like with the Bluebeam edit?
Yeah, I didn't have one. I was actually pushing workflow while we were chatting. So let's keep chatting while I push some workflow through so that we can see that. Other questions while I do this?
Yeah, I do have a question. So the Bluebeam edit I see here is you did those yellow clouds, but then you went into Brava to do the change mark icon so that it would show up, correct?
I just opened Brava as an example on how to see both Brava and Bluebeam change marks.
Right. So my concern is if somebody does a change mark in Bluebeam, or somebody does a markup in Bluebeam, it doesn't have the change mark capability. It'll just say blue. In other words, right now the reason that we see the data in the right-hand side in the box is because that's a change mark. See what I'm saying? In other words, the only way we can see, when we create markups now in Brava, that we don't see that in any report. We don't see that in the right-hand box. We don't see markups. We only see change mark icons. So my concern is with the Bluebeam, if they don't associate a change mark, it's going to be the same situation, correct?
It would be, because it's actually a new version of the file. The change marks aren't documented in Bluebeam or they're documented in Bluebeam but when they come into Project Docs, it's the upload, right? That the process of adding a new file that captures that information.
No, I don't think we're talking about the same thing. When a reviewer is reviewing a plan and they do a markup instead of a change mark, that markup does not show in any kind of reports at all currently right now. So what we're having to tell our reviewers to do, if they create a markup, to draw an arrow and create a change mark, so that we could put data in there, a subject and content, for example.
Mm-hmm.
Following me?
Yes.
Okay, so now my concern is that sheet that you just showed me that had the Bluebeam markup on it, it appears that if you have a Bluebeam markup, in order for it to show up in that change mark report, you would actually have to draw an arrow and create a change mark. No? Yes?
Yes, that is correct.
There wasn't any text or anything associated with saying what that was.
I'm sorry, if that's a question, I can't hear it.
We were just processing. Sorry.
Okay. Let me. Come on. Okay. So I should have those change marks in, at least the Bluebeam change mark that I just did in this e-form. Yep, here we go. So this is a Bluebeam change showing up in the change mark viewer. So there's the file that was marked, there's the markup name, subject, and it says C file for details. Yeah, so the reviewer's information does not come through on this, but they certainly could in the e-form make comments. Oh, I'm sorry. There it is, right there. It does come through. That's the person who uploaded the file, the Bluebeam file, after change mark.
But that's only because you associated a change mark with it, or is it coming straight from Bluebeam? I guess I'm confused.
This is a markup that I made in Bluebeam. That text right there, I made that while we were talking. I made that mark in Bluebeam, and then I re-uploaded into Project Docs, which did rev the file, but it also brought forward this change mark information.
So then you don't have to have a change mark. So I guess for clarification, Chris, in the existing version that we have, you have what's called a markup and you have what's called a change mark. And
understood.
Okay, so that's what I was trying.
I know where you're going, and here's the problem. Let's go back and let's make more than one mark in Bluebeam, and I'll show you what I'm talking about. Other questions while I go over here?
Chris, I had a question. In the scenario where the file gets downloaded and works on Bluebeam and re-uploaded, if somebody were to go into the file in the drawings folder and mark it up in Brava, and then that Bluebeam file got re-uploaded, would that replace the version with the that had been marked up in Brava, or would that have gotten integrated in?
It would have been integrated in. It's not going to replace that version. The markups in Brava are still there, right?
Would it preserve if the file got checked out or it got downloaded and 50 comments were made in Bluebeam amongst various reviewers, and that marked up file was then placed back into the drawings folder, it would version the file, but it would preserve any markups in Brava that somebody else had done, is what you're saying.
Good question, Andrew.
Yes, that's what I'm saying.
Okay.
And now I made 2 or 3 marks in that time frame. I'm uploading a new version, and we'll go look at the e-form.
So right now, he's got version 4 here, but we should be able to see the Brava markup from version 1 is what you're asking, right, Andrew?
That version didn't change because of Brava is the point. but the Bravo markups are still available.
Okay.
I'll open it to show. Of course, we've only got, let me make another mark on here. Let's put this change mark here. Okay, so now that I've made a change mark, it's not gonna version the file like Bluebeam, right? I'm gonna come out of here. It's gonna ask me if I wanted to save those. Obviously, CP change mark 1. Okay. So that change mark is on there. We did not version the file. Let me refresh just to show you that. So we refresh. No change in version, but we still have the Bravo markup in there. If I come over here to our E form, I've got 3 markups. One was the one that I did by itself in Bluebeam. The second was my second opening of Bluebeam and making 2, 3, 4 marks on that file. And then the third was the Bravo, and here they are. So going back to your change mark question, I've opened it twice with Bluebeam. So let's just say it was 2 different people, right? If I'm a plumbing reviewer in Bluebeam, all of my change marks are 1, right? There they are. There's that first one with the scribble scrabble and the text box. The second person that went in and made their changes got another update, and that they're really small. It's down here. Sorry, but some of the metadata came through. You have to open the file to see those markups, those changes. Unlike in the Bravo viewer, the change mark, the sticky note, or I'm not sure what you guys are using, but how you mandated that each issue gets a change mark, that functionality doesn't hold true in Bluebeam. And that, I think that was your question.
Yeah. The other thing, Andrew, Leela, and Ralph, that we need to consider is the fact that if Bluebeam creates all these versions every time a sheet is updated, that could become confusing as to what cycle we're in, I guess.
Yeah, sure.
It could. There's no denying that, but we do maintain cycle separately.
That's true. I mean, in the reporting, you're able to do that. Now, I noticed in our version right now, I don't know if that's changed in this version, a couple of things, and it's probably superficial, but it's huge when it comes to the applicant, the use of ease. But like, for example, if you have this particular report right here, and you have, 50 change marks on it, when you scroll over to page 4 or 5, you lose your titles. You lose your titles. So this is not going to be a good example, but the titles don't scroll with each page. 28 change marks. This might be a better.
Is this what you're, so if I go to page 2.
Yeah, go to like page 5.
Okay.
This version, it keeps it. It keeps that.
Oh, this gray bar at the top?
The ribbon, yep.
Yep, okay, yeah.
Oh, no. In the report, you're not in the report. You're actually in the change mark viewer. But in the report, it doesn't keep it.
In SSRS?
I don't know what the number is, but it's the change mark report that shows this exact information, but only in the reporting.
Is it a PDF file, or is it, what is that?
Yeah, Chris, she's referring to the SSRS reports, not the change mark viewer that you've got up there. And Michelle, that is just a functionality of SSRS. When you use SSRS, those reports, you would then download it either to Excel or to PDF or something.
Yeah.
But we can't control those SSRS reports to make the columns sortable.
And now, however, in this particular version, if you show like 20 records, actually show all of the records, show 28 records if you don't mind, Chris. Okay. You see that you cannot scroll over. Your scroll bar disappears without going all the way down to the bottom, and then you lose your title. So you don't know where you're at. This is very difficult for our applicants.
Absolutely, totally agree with you, and it's something that I've complained loudly about.
Okay, good. Here's me complaining loudly too.
Thank you so much for the ammunition.
Yes.
Well, I agree. It's annoying.
Okay.
All right, Chris, Michelle, I don't mean to interrupt, but just to let you all know that it is the hour has ended, so I don't know if everyone has a little more time or if anybody has any more questions. Just let us know.
Let me drag these over.
Is there anything else you needed to show us?
Now, knowing that you guys are on Project Flow already, I'm going to say no. I think I think the two biggest things that you should get out of this are ad hoc and quick review, and the Bluebeam functionality, getting a greater understanding of that Bluebeam functionality. I also want to really highlight that from that Bluebeam perspective, I'm going to go back to something that Amy said very early on, and that is this is a very early, let's call it V1 of the integration, right, between Project Docs and Bluebeam. I'm going to go out on a limb and say that that will improve with time and as we grow that relationship. So I know that there are some challenges. As we're having this conversation, I'm actually discovering some more that I will take back to our product management team, and Dwayne specifically, who has been a trooper in terms of getting us this integration. So, yeah, these challenges, certainly, I can have them addressed. Whether or not they get resolved, that's a technical conversation that we'll have with Bluebeam directly, our engineering team with theirs.
Well, Chris, we really want to thank you for your time and showing us this. It's so much more easier to digest now that I've spent some time in Project Docs. So,
oh, sure.
Thank you so much. This is really
no problem. And Amy will attest to the fact that I get down to your neck of the woods about